Hello and welcome back to the Climate Solutions News podcast. The buildings and infrastructure that we construct today will mostly still be standing in 50 years. The embodied carbon in the materials used would have been released during the whole construction process long before a single occupant arrives. And that's the challenge at the heart of what One Click LCA has been working on since 2010, making embodied carbon visible, measurable and actionable for the architects, engineers, manufacturers, and investors who decide how the built environment's made. Panu Pasanen founded One Click LCA in Helsinki and has grown it into a platform now used in over 100 countries. Last year, the company acquired SimaPro and Pre-Sustainability, bringing together two of the most influential names in life cycle assessment and creating what the company describes as the world's largest CLA platform. Panu and One Click LCA are taking part in Reset Connect in London on the 23rd and 24th of June, and this conversation comes about because Climate Solutions News is a media partner to the event. There's still time to sign up to attend, and the link is in the notes. So welcome, Panu.
Thanks, great to be here.
For anyone unfamiliar with life cycle assessment, please just start by giving us a simple overview of what it is, how it's carried out, and then maybe tell us what led you to start up the company.
Life cycle assessment describes the environmental impacts of doing anything over the whole life cycle. So not just, digging the materials from the ground, but transporting them for places of processing them, transporting them to the, finished goods user installation, their use, and their end-of-life disposal. What's the point here is that you cannot cherry pick what you call the low impact phases of your life cycle, but you have to actually represent the whole picture. Because if your materials, for example, have very high energy consumption in the manufacturing phase and you try to represent just the raw materials that you use, obviously you are misleading the consumer and or the investor or the regulator about the impact. So it gives you a true picture. And how do you do life cycle assessment? Is that you typically use data that you have readily available already in one of your systems. You may have a design system, procurement system, enterprise resource management, or something else where you capture what is it that you're doing. And you're taking that data, you're dropping it into a LCA software such as One Click LCA or SimaPro, and the software transforms the data into a lifecycle assessment results by combining it with reliable environmental impact factors, which are coming from different scientifically validated databases and are calculating it according to international standards and national regulations, as the case may be. So to the last part of your question.
Carry on, sorry,
yeah. Your last part of the question, why I created One Click LCA is because construction has a pretty much unique process all the time, and the problem is much larger because if you make a car, you can spend 100 million on R&D, and then you can actually spend energy on figuring out how to optimize the environmental impact. But if you do a building, you actually have very limited time scale and very limited budget, and we need to find a way to do it, especially for the construction supply chain and the construction value chain, in a highly efficient manner that's compatible with how these projects are actually managed. And that problem wasn't solved before One Click LCA.
And you sit kind of at the point of intersection where carbon accounting meets design decision making. And why do you think embodied carbon remains so much harder to act on than operational carbon in many ways? And within that, which sectors or geographies are closing the gap fastest to try and address the problem, do you think?
So the embodied carbon, first of all, is not showing in your energy bills, right? So investors and others who buy, let's say, buildings or other assets, they will be aware of what's the energy bill going to be looking like, and they will try to optimize it at all times. And the energy supply can actually be influenced after the building is commissioned. So the UK is now working on another nuclear power plant, and once that's turned on, the whole nation's energy, electricity supply just drops without any single building owner doing anything. Whereas for every building where you want to reduce the embodied carbon, you have to do it decision by decision at the project level, and you need to say, hey, guys, this is going to be the point in time when we have an impact or opportunity to have an impact, and this is how we're going to do it. So this is how it works very differently.
And when you're looking at sort of smaller contractors and smaller firms in particular, are they catching up as quickly as the larger firms, or how's the market moving in this direction?
We see that the larger and smaller companies both work in sync, because much of the work for the smaller companies actually is coming from the larger entities. So the requirements are to an extent uniformized. So the company size doesn't so much differentiate. So then there's certain subsegments of the markets, like people who build their own homes. They wouldn't go after this process. That's kind of a bit too complicated for them. And then there's, of course, differentiation between the different countries. So let's say Norway, Netherlands, Finland, to UK as well, been leading the development of those markets for very long. And then other parts of the world are catching up, like Southern Europe, North America. Well, let's say coasts of the North America more than
we'll come back to North
Midwest.
America.
Yeah.
And if we can just look at regulation for a second, because this year is seeming to be quite a pivotal moment in regulation for the construction industry. So the EU Construction Products Regulation, the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, the ESPR, they're all beginning to kind of come in and have an effect at the same time. Do you think it's a genuine inflection point, or are you seeing the real pressure and the kind of impact of this regulation still coming a few years down the line?
Yeah, it's a real inflection point. So if we look at the construction product regulation, first, binding regulations have already been enacted. So like it's being rolled out. Then if we look at the Energy Performance for Buildings Directive, the first national implementations are already being implemented, and all the countries have to roll out their national implementations in the course of the next 12 to 18 months. ESPR then is much more non-construction, and there's a stage deployment, so it's going to take longer. But so for construction product regulation, EPBD is moving now.
I mean, that's a positive move, right? I mean, regulation can be a hindrance, or seen as a hindrance for many sectors, but actually this seems to be moving at pace and being quite welcomed, would you say?
Well, yeah, definitely. So here, I mean, what I think is interesting is, like, when we started labeling cars with the emissions, it becomes actually possible to choose what you want to drive. Now, with these regulations, it becomes possible to choose what do you want to live. Like, I mean, it's a way to actually understand what your implications of what you're doing are. And this creates a much more healthy market environment, because it's not anymore just price and availability. Now it's carbon price and availability that's going to be used for determining construction supply.
And digital product passports are coming in as well. How do you think that's going to affect the market and the supply chain?
Digital product passport is not really a thing. It's more like the transaction data flow enabler. So it allows to do the same stuff that you would have to do otherwise with a bit more tedious and manual process in a smoother way. So it's a digital enabler. It's not like a final output. And it has benefits for trade, because it allows you to actually understand the supplier's products and their characteristics in a much easier way, as opposed to going through thousands of PDFs. Nobody would go through that, right? And it's a trade enabler. On the secondary effect, it's of course also a regulation. And the regulation requires that you disclose these pieces of information, including environmental information, and DPP is then allowing you to make it processable. So, but I think DPP should not be considered purely as an end regulation. It's more like a trade enabler, and that's where the biggest value is, because when this data becomes easy to process and easy to compare, then we get the real impact, the positive impact on the industry.
And is that built into your platform?
We are building DPP capability now. We're bringing out the first version in this year.
Very good. Let's just turn to your technology, if that's right. You're, like many other people, focusing a lot on AI and integrating AI across things like data mapping and anomaly detection and eco design discovery. Where are you seeing the value from AI at the moment, and where do you think it's going in your business and across the sector?
Like immediate value, what customers get from AI today with One Click LCA platform is that it removes things that could lead you to having to do something very complicated that would take time in the back end. So for example, if you're making let's say a complicated system and you miss data for one component and you can't deal with the supplier, you don't get a response from the supplier, your process actually could stop at that point. So we have built and validated AI capability to generate such datasets for your components. You get them pretty much instantly for anything that you use in MEP or building products. And that kind of things just cut out potential weeks of delays and hassle for getting some data sets. We can do similar things in verification of your quality, or we can do similar things in processing of your data format. So we are actually taking out significant chunks of work, and we are taking out significant chunks of lead time for the benefit of the consumer. And obviously the users remain in control. So the users will see, hey, this is what I come up with. Sign off, don't sign off. So it doesn't fundamentally change the accountability. And where AI is going, so AI is going over the step where users control and validate single individual stages and steps like this to a point where AI is proposing an entire solution and then the user is more steering it. And this will happen very fast in the next 18 months. So where you are able to have, let us say, entire design and proposals for eco design reviewed by an
So
end
it's
user.
it's helping you get to actually delivering the one-click promise, I suppose.
Yeah, and decarbonization at the same time, right? And decarbonization is not something people often pay for separately, so it's quite important that we can make that as seamless as possible.
Do you think that well, how much confidence do you have in the AI? Is it, producing the accuracy that you need? Is it producing any risks that you see in terms of the output or the verification and transparency of the process? Or, are you happy with the way it's working?
So it's not based on trust. It's based on verification and control mechanism guardrails, right? And we know it works. Like we don't trust it. We monitor it constantly. We have very significant test data sets which we use to ensure it works. So, and we do have, of course, guardrails that will, reject the AI proposal if we have certain flags go off. So, what we need to ensure is that we know what it's doing, right? And we are fully clear on what it should be doing. And the responsibility is, of course, on us as a software vendor to make sure it performs and be able to inform the user that, hey, here's your output, and this proposal here has low confidence. For example, if you get 10 proposals for a certain project and 8 of them are high quality, 1 medium and 1 low, our job is to tell the user, because if the user dismisses the 2 bottom ones, they still get significant amount of value from the 8 first ones, which we have high confidence on. This is like a very practical way to work with it. So it's not based on you trusting, it's you're controlling actually the whole process.
And in terms of, I mentioned up front that you did acquisition last year, a SimaPro acquisition. That brings together 2 kind of different traditions in lifecycle assessment. And, how do the 2 products coexist? What are your, how are you reconciling different approaches, and how are you using that acquisition to scale to the million users that you've set out to achieve by 2035?
So One Click LCA is very much design and business process driven software. So we have designed our software to operate according to the speed of business. SimaPro, on the other hand, has a science background and a methodology background. So you have this full lifecycle inventory modeling, which is way deeper. And both of the approaches work and produce correct results, but the other gives you control at a different level, other gives you speed. So what we do is we bring together the ability to go deep with SimaPro. We bring the ability to go fast on One Click LCA side. So we are basically enabling customers to go deep where it's appropriate. Let us say you have certain things in your supply chain that you really need to understand and figure out how to optimize. And then on the other hand, to be able to do repeatable scale on the other side. And how does that all relate to the 1 million user goal? So this expands the industries which we can serve, which then pretty much doubles the speed at which we can go after this, because we serve now more things like consumer products industry, pharma, which we do not serve with One Click LCA through SimaPro platform.
And how's the integration been? Because mergers are always notoriously difficult in terms of both technical integration, cultural integration, all of those things. What's the process been like?
Well, there's always work, right? So good thing is that Netherlands and Finland, they have more cultural similarities than dissimilarities. So we are in the, let's say, Northern European mindset. And we have very deep LCA expertise in both companies. So, but yeah, there's obviously work, but we are very happy with the work we're doing with SimaPro.
Very good, very good. And looking at the the industries that you're working with broadly, where do you think decarbonisation thinking remains weakest, and where's there most work to do within those industries to get up to the levels that are needed?
The weakest. Well, the industries that haven't been exposed to these demands for long remain the weakest. So if your end buyers or if your market hasn't been pushing you, you wouldn't have developed so much capability. So we would look at then things like pharma, heavy machinery. So there's work, but it's not like a work at scale yet. So there's this kind of areas where the adoption is pretty limited. Then there are, of course, regional differences. So in some countries, an industry could be pretty advanced. Let's say food sector is advanced in a lot of countries, but other countries is more or less nowhere. So I don't think I have a single answer who's the least adopting industry, but there are variances within both industries and geographies.
So when you're planning your kind of sales approach and things like that, are you prioritizing the industries which are behind and need to be brought up, or are you prioritizing the ones that are more sophisticated and already looking at this and just looking for new technology to bring to bear on the problem?
We are focusing on the industries where we can have impact in this time scale, right? So like we do, of course, some market development work. For example, we do have some product category rule writing work for certain industries which don't have methodology how to do LCA yet. But the heart of the matter is to get people to adopt and start to use it in their business and in their decision making. And therefore, we are looking at the industries where there's some level of understanding to move at this. And then with other industries, we are just providing them educational resources, and those are typically free. So it's more market development, but the commercial effort is obviously in the industries where people understand that this is a thing and where people understand that there's an opportunity connected to it.
And you're working in something like 100 countries now. How do you manage that? Do you have people on the ground in all those places, or is it a central model?
So One Click LCA is used in a bit over 170 countries.
100,
and
okay.
SimaPro on top, I don't know how many it reaches in total, but well, certainly below 200, right? I mean, it's not many more countries to go after at that point, but we are having people in maybe 30, 35 countries, but we are having most of our big offices are in Europe and North.
And how many people do you have in total working in the business?
Over 300.
So you're getting to the point where you may not know everybody in the company. It brings different challenges.
I definitely don't know everybody working in the company personally. Yes, let's put it this way. Yes.
In terms of Reset Connect, I mentioned up front, you're going to the Reset Connect event on the 23rd and 24th of June. You're presenting there, are you? Can people see you on stage?
I'm going to be on stage.
And what are you going to be talking about? Is it about the company, or are you focusing on the challenges?
We'll be talking about the supply chain, how to work with the supply chain decarbonization, and there's going to be some consumer businesses like, I think FC Liverpool and one more, NHS actually. So some very different approaches how to decarbonize supply chains, and which can be quite different in these cases. For example, construction supply chains are fundamentally different to these, the ones mentioned here.
Very good. Panu Pasanen, CEO and founder of One Click LCA, many thanks. If you'd like to find out more about the company, the website is oneclicklca.com, and you can, of course, pop along to Reset Connect to watch Panu speaking and say hello to the team. This is the Solutions News podcast, and if you found this conversation useful, please do subscribe, share it, tell a colleague, sign up to our social channels, or check out all the stories and interviews at climatesolutions.news. Thanks very much for listening.